How's it going, everyone? This is Austin Honecker here. Today is July 15th, 2021. And no, I'm not on here to do a review for All Elite Wrestling or sing a song. I'm on here right now because 3 years ago, because I just want to let you all know, 3 years ago today, my best friend, Tyler Smith, who was like a brother to me, passed away. He was at 23 years old. He committed suicide from getting hit by a train. And, you know, even though it's been 3 years, it still hasn't gotten easier. It really fucking hasn't gotten any fucking easier. Because I still grieve over him today as I did the day he passed away. You know, my life has changed since Tyler passed away. And, you know, he was all I had, really. He was the only real best friend I had. You know, we started being friends in 7th grade in 2009. And we were friends. We were best friends for 9 years. And that was all the years we were friends up until he passed away. It was a great 9 years of friendship. You know, every time I was around Tyler, the friendship was real. We always laughed, we always smiled, we always bullshitted with each other. You know, we were always into orneriness and meanness and everything. And as you all know, right now I'm wearing a purple shirt in honor of him. Because purple was Tyler's favorite color. And, you know, Tyler was a good-hearted man. He was he was wise. He was wise way beyond his years. He was real as real could get. As you all know, right now, I have a Corona beer. And just to let you all know, this was Tyler's. This was Tyler's favorite beer. I mean, he loved Corona. I mean, he drank alcohol a lot. But his favorite alcoholic beverages were Corona. Well, his favorite beers were Corona and Guinness. And his favorite whiskeys were bourbon and Jack Daniels. So I went and got me a Corona to drink this in honor of him. Well, before I get to that, there's some stories I want to share about Tyler. You know, when me and Tyler first met, you know, we clicked and we became really good friends. And, you know, we always, everything we done, we had fun. And, you know, Tyler was really bad into drugs and drinking throughout his life, but he was a great soul. He had a heart of gold and a kind soul. He always could light up a room every time he entered it. And, you know, even though he would always laugh, smile, bullshit, joke around and everything on the outside, he still struggled deep down inside with mental health issues like depression, anxiety, panic disorder, and a bunch of other mental health issues. And there's there's some stories I'd like to tell y'all about Tyler. You know, the first time I went to the first time Tyler Smith came to my house, we had a good time. It was when I was living in Winfield, West Virginia. And and while he was at my house, I was playing Xbox 360 and he was on my laptop. And he told me, he said, Austin, come here for a second. I got to show you something. I said, what the fuck is it? He said, just get the fuck over here. I got to show you something, dude. I said, okay. So I went over there and I said, what the fuck is this shit? He said, it's two girls, one cup. I said, what the fuck is that? And he said, just watch the fucking video, Austin. So I watched the video. And I got sick as a dog watching it. After the video, I fucking puked my guts out. And Tyler was sitting there laughing his fucking ass off. And I said, you just wait, you son of a bitch. I will get you back. So later on in the night, me and Tyler, we were getting ready to go to bed. So I thought, well, I already told Tyler that I was going to get him back. So I'm going to do it. So what I done was, I got up, I pulled my pants down, I said, hey Tyler, look. He looked, he said, ooh. And then I said, wait Tyler, it gets even better. So I spread my ass cheeks apart. He said, ooh. and then later on when he went to sleep, he was sound asleep with his mouth wide open. And so I walked over quietly to where he was at. And I went over there. His mouth was wide open. He was sound asleep. So I squat down and I farted in his mouth. So Tyler woke up. He saw that it was me that farted in his mouth. And that son of a bitch punched me in the nuts. And after he punched me in the nuts and I went down on the ground, Tyler got up and had to go get him a glass of wine to get his breath because the fart smell was in his mouth. And we always laughed about that. Every time we were around each other and that story came up, we always laughed about it. And there was another time too when I went with Tyler in school. David Foster, he was a poor kid. He was picking on Tyler. And Tyler was trying to keep his nose clean. And he said, Austin, kick David's ass for me. I said, yes, master. So I went up to David Foster. David Foster said, no. I said, oh, yes. So I slapped David right in the face. I punched him in the nose. I pushed him down. And as David was down on the ground, I grabbed David by his legs, by his feet. I spread his legs apart and I stepped on his nutsack. And David ended up pissing his pants. And Tyler was sitting there laughing his ass off, and he said, heads up for that, brother. And I gave him a high five. He was laughing his ass off, and he said, I didn't think you were actually going to do it. He said, but good job. I said, well, anything for you, Tyler. And there was also that same day I hung out with Tyler because he, when he came to my house, well, I went to his house before he came to mine. And we were just out and about in Scott Depot, and we were just walking around Scott Depot and everything. And, we walked to the Scott Tays we went to the Scott Tays Elementary School. And there was this guy named Jacob Limmerman and a bunch of his buddies that me and Tyler went to school with. Well, Jacob Limmerman, he threw a basketball and hit me in the face with it. I stood there. And Tyler said, don't take that shit, brother. That's what he said. He said, Tyler said, hey, don't take that shit, brother. And I said, Tyler, I'm afraid to fight back because his buddies are here and they're going to gang up on me. And he said, no, they're not, brother. He said, they're all a bunch of pussies. He said, I guarantee you. I guarantee you that if you stand up for yourself and you kick Jacob Limmerman's ass, then, uh, then those douchebags he's hanging out with, they ain't gonna do shit to you. So I took Tyler's advice and I told Jacob Limmerman, I said, hey, asshole. He said, what? I said, why don't you hit me in the face with that basketball again and see what happens? He said, oh, what are you gonna do about it, retard? So I said, try it. Try it again. See what happens. So Jacob Limmerman hit me in the face with that basketball again, and I tackled Jacob Limmerman down. I started punching him in the face, and then I picked him up and bashed his spine into a flagpole. And Tyler applauded me for doing that. And Tyler was the type that he would not take shit from anybody. He always stood up for himself, and he would not let no one, and I mean no one, walk all over him. And I used to be the type to let people walk all over me. And Tyler, he would always be on my ass for doing that, for letting people walk all over me. And one day, Tyler gave me a big tongue lashing and would always get on to me if I didn't stand up for myself. So what I did about that was I started standing up for myself. I took Tyler's advice and I started standing up for myself, and I started not taking shit from anybody. And I learned from the best. And I started growing my hair long and everything on account of Tyler. Tyler taught me so much about life. And he got me into some good ass music. Like, he got me into classic rock, heavy metal, alternative rock, and all that good shit. He wasn't much into country music, but he liked the old country music like Hank Sr., Hank Jr., Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, you name it. But he was more like classic rock, heavy metal, alternative rock, all that shit. But he did not like rap music at all. And Tyler was really good at playing guitar and skateboarding. And he could also sing like an angel. And, he started playing guitar when he was 4 years old. And he played guitar up until he passed away. And so he played guitar for 19 years. Yeah, I think is what it was, because he was 4 when he started playing guitar, and then he died when he was 23, so yeah, he played guitar up until he died. And every time he played guitar, I was on the edge of my seat. Because I was flabbergasted. Like, I couldn't believe that he could play all them songs. Like, you could name any song there is, and that son of a bitch could play guitar, could play all them songs. And, he wanted to teach me how to play guitar, but I never had the patience. And with his skateboarding, he could do just about any skateboarding trick there is. Like, he even tried to get me into skating, but I never had the patience to learn that either. But Tyler had many talents. Tyler was a talented guy. He could do just about anything. And another thing too about Tyler is in school, he would always put his shirt over his fucking head, and he would go around the school impersonating Beavis and Butthead, and he'd say, "I need TP from my bunghole," or he'd say, "I'm the Great Cornholio," and and then he would also impersonate Butthead, and that was Beavis that he'd impersonate, but he'd impersonate Butthead, and he'd say, cut it out, Beavis, cut it out, Beavis. And, he could impersonate people too, like cartoons, everything. And, another thing too, I had a Elmo flat-bill, and he loved my Elmo flat-bill. And every time we hung out, like we were hanging out in school or hanging out at home, and I had that hat, he'd always want to wear it. And I'd let him, because he was my best friend, more like my brother. And he had my back through a lot of shit. He really did. And, hell, me and Tyler, we used to drink together. We used to smoke weed together. We did just about everything together. And there'd be times we would do jackass-like shit. Like, we'd be outside during school, and there'd be a trash can full of bees, and we kicked them over, and we would run for our lives. And, one day, too, me and Tyler at school, we were both supposed to be in ISS, in-school ISS, which is in-school suspension, but we both skipped it. So, during that day, me and Tyler, we went up to the ISS door, and we knocked on the fucking door, and then we fucking took off running. And, another thing too about Tyler is he's also during school, and even at home, he would cock his leg and he would fart right on my head. And I'd say, "Hey," and he loved to joke around. He could make anybody laugh. He could have made a career out of anything. He could have been a comedian. He could have been a lead guitarist. He could have been a skater. He was that damn great at everything. Tyler, there was one time we were drinking one night, and he had shot bottles of vodka and tequila mixed. And that shit was strong, but it was great. It was good. Like, we drank it, and we drink and smoke weed all the time. We were at home hanging out. And, Tyler, when I lived in Winfield, because, he lived in Scott Depot. And Tyler would always sneak me out of my house because, my dad and stepmom, they were just a bunch of pricks. They were both pricks. And they wouldn't hardly let me do nothing. So Tyler would cut through the woods of Scott Depot, come all the way to Winfield to sneak me out. And he succeeded every time. And we always hung out. We every time we were hanging out, we were either smoking weed or we were either drinking. And even listening to tunes and everything. And when, and there'd be times I would sing songs, and, he would aggravate the shit out of me about it. He'd say, "Brother, I don't mean," he would pick on me about it. He'd say, "Brother, I'm sorry, but that was shitty." And I would sit there and laugh my ass off the whole time because I know I can't sing. And he would pick on me like hell over it. Because that's just the way he was. He loved to joke around. And I'll also tell you about Tyler is, me and Tyler, we were really close throughout middle school and high school. We always hung out all the time in middle school and high school. But after high school, we kind of drifted apart and lost touch. But, we stayed in touch every chance we got. But we didn't really hang out or anything after high school. And that's one thing I regret, is not being able to hang out with him, before he passed. And, not too many months before Tyler passed away, we connected again on Facebook, and we started getting close again. And he wanted to hang out with me like old times, and I wanted to hang out with him too like old times. But, work and life and all that bullshit got in the way. And, I'm lucky that I got to see Tyler a few months, 3 months before he died. And, I saw him up at my work. I hollered at him. And I parked my cart in the side of the aisle, and I went up and talked to him a good deal. We were sitting there laughing, joking around, bullshitting, and everything. Like old times. And, I could tell there was something wrong. The last time I seen him, that he was struggling. I could tell. I mean, we had a good time, but I could tell deep down he was struggling. And about 2 months before he died, he wanted to come see me up at my work. But I couldn't, because it wasn't very long before I had to clock in. But, if I could go back and fix shit, I would have took that half occurrence, and I would have got to see him. And, I have kept our messages, that our Facebook messages. I still have them, and I'm going to keep them to remember memories of me and him. And every comment, everything that I've said on his Facebook or he said on my Facebook, on our posts and pictures and everything, I screenshotted them and I kept them as well to have for memories. Because, that's all I have. I wish we would have gotten pictures and videos together, but we didn't. And that shit fucking hurts. Even not being able to hang out with him all the time before he left this world, that shit fucking hurts too. Like I said, it hasn't gotten easier since he left this world. It has not gotten fucking easier. Like everybody tells me, oh, it'll get easier. But I don't see how. Because I still grieve over him to this day. Even 3 years later, I still grieve over him now as I did when he left this world. And I'll tell you, I didn't know about his death until the next day. Because people on Facebook, people that me and Tyler went to school with, were posting about it, rest in peace, Tyler Smith, this, that, and the third. And I didn't believe it. But when I seen his mom post about it, and I seen the Putnam County Sheriff's Department post about it, that's when I believed it. And I was lost for words. Like, I was at work the day after he died. I was at work. And when I got the news that he left this world, I could not believe it. Like, I was lost for words, and I broke down at work. Like, I was either on one of my 15-minute breaks or my hour lunch, and I broke down in tears because I lost him. And, like, I lost my best friend more like my brother. And, Tyler, like I said, Tyler had a lot of mental health issues, but he tried to get help for his mental health. Like, he wouldn't go get help for the longest time, but eventually he tried. Like, eventually he went to go get help. And he reached out, so his mother took him to a psychiatrist and to get him an evaluation. And during that evaluation, he opened up to that doctor, and he told that doctor how he was feeling, and he told that doctor he was going to commit suicide. Well, that doctor let him go. That doctor did not put him in the hospital or put him on suicide watch. He just let him go. And that doctor had the audacity to fucking say that, oh, he's fine, there's nothing wrong with him. Well, that was bullshit, because Tyler was not fine. Tyler was struggling deep down, and not long after that evaluation, Tyler took his life. Tyler committed suicide, went on the railroad tracks and committed suicide from getting hit by a train. And how it happened was Tyler was walking the tracks, and he had headphones in his ears listening to music. And the train came behind him and hit him from behind and killed him. And from what I heard, he was gone on impact, which I'm glad he went on impact instead of having to suffer through that. Yeah, and Christopher Kidd was the psychiatrist. Dr. Christopher Kidd was the psychiatrist that Tyler went to before he passed. And Dr. Kidd better be lucky that nobody's gotten a hold of him, because, what he done was wrong. He broke the law of his job. Dr. Kidd did. And I will never forgive him for letting Tyler go. And, people try to tell me that Tyler would want me to live my life until my time is up in this world, but, a lot of times I feel like he would want me with him again. Because there's a lot of times, because, I struggle with depression and anxiety along with other mental health issues myself. And there's a lot of times I'd just like to leave this world and be with Tyler again. And, make new memories with him. Drink and smoke weed with him like old times. Just do a bunch of shit like old times and make new memories. It's just, it still sucks that he's gone. And I remember his funeral 4 days later on July 19th, 2018. That was 4 days after he passed. And I went to the funeral. It was at Chapman Funeral Home in Tays Valley, West Virginia. And, I broke, deep down I was crying. But, I wasn't crying on the outside, but I was crying on the inside, because there was a couple people there that I was trying to stay strong for. And that was one of Tyler's other friends, John Crichton, because John Crichton was crying his eyes out, and I was trying to console him. And Destiny Adkins, Tyler's ex-girlfriend, was there too, and she was crying, and I was trying to stay strong for her. And I was also trying to stay strong for his family. And, it was a hard day. And, they played Go Rest High on That Mountain by Vince Gill for his funeral song. And while I heard that, I went into tears inside. And within his burial, because he's buried at the Pine Grove Cemetery out in Sod, West Virginia. And when they buried Tyler, they played Thanks for the Memories by Fall Out Boy. And every time I hear them songs anymore, I think of Tyler, because Go Rest High on That Mountain by Vince Gill was played for his funeral, and Thanks for the Memories by Fall Out Boy was played for his burial. And, you know, it just seems unreal that he's gone. It really is. And, you know, it like I said, it don't get easier. It fucking don't get easier that he's gone. You know, I have yet to go out to his grave, but I'm afraid to go out to his grave because I know if I go out there, my depression will hit me really bad and I'll start crying my eyes out and my anxiety will hit me really bad and I'll go into a panic attack or something. And, you know, you know, maybe I should go out there to visit his grave, but I'm afraid because I'm afraid that I'll start crying and have a panic attack. But, you know, I will say almost a year after Tyler died, his family had a celebration of life for him at the Kanawha State Forest out in Southridge, West Virginia. And, you know, me and the family, you know, we had a cookout. You know, we had hot dogs and ice cream. And, you know, we shared some memories. We played badminton. We played cornhole. We took a hike. We did a bunch of shit. And, you know, that day, like, it was great being with it. Like, it was fun. It really was. But it wasn't the same without Tyler. You know, it just wasn't. Because if Tyler would have been there, it would have been great if he would have been there. Because it would have been, you know, like, we would have had a good time. We would have been in the meanest and everything. But his family, they were really good to me. And, you know, it was a good day with his family. It was sad, but it was good. It was a good day. And, you know, we also wrote notes to Tyler, and we also put them on balloons and let them fly away so he could get them. And I hope he got them. I hope he got the notes that we left. And I will say another thing about Tyler's mother. You know, during Thanksgiving that year Tyler died, his mother came to my work and brought me a plate of food for Thanksgiving. And as soon as I seen her, I broke down in tears crying. Because, you know, I was thinking of Tyler. But, you know, his mother, she was patient with me. She held on to me and she consoled me while I was crying. And, you know, I took the plate and everything that she gave me, and she had a lot of food in there, and it was all good. The food was, because his mom and his cousin, they cooked the food and they brought me a plate. And that was really nice of his mom to do, and I appreciated it, but it just made me think of Tyler. And, you know, like I said, it just hasn't gotten easier. But, you know, I will, and there's one more story I will share about Tyler before I wrap this up. You know, Tyler was awful flirtatious with me a lot of times because he would come up to me and he would slap my ass and he would act all flirtatious with me and everything. But I didn't pay attention to it because he was my best friend, more like my brother. But, you know, that was at school. And one day at home, he, you know, I asked Tyler, I told him, I said, Tyler, I said, is there something you'd like to share with me? And he said, wow, he said, why you say that for, brother? I said, because I've been noticing some shit. Like, and he said, what have you been noticing? I said, you know, I've been noticing that you've been acting flirtatious with me and you've been slapping my ass all the time. Is there something you'd like to share with me? And he said, brother, I'm afraid to say it because I'm afraid you're not going to want anything to do with me anymore. I said, just tell me, Tyler. I said, because I said, I'm not going to judge you or anything. And he said, brother, I'm bisexual. And I said, okay. I said, I told him, I said, okay. I said, that's perfectly fine with me. I said, I'm not going to judge you. I said, if you like both men and if you're sexually attracted to men and women both, if you want to suck the dick or have the dick up your ass or eat a woman's pussy or fuck a woman in the pussy, go for it. If you like both sexes, go for it. What you do behind closed doors is your business, not mine. And I told him, I said, Tyler, I still love you. You're still my best friend. You're still my brother. I'll always love you. And your sexuality will not ruin our friendship. So Tyler started crying, and I went up to him and I hugged him, and he hugged me back, and he had his hand right on my head as I was hugging him, and he went like that to my head, and I was like, and because he was picking at me. And we still continued on with our friendship. And, and there's another thing too I need to share. You know, you know, Tyler, one time I was having a rough time with my parents, and I was at school at my locker in high school, and I was sitting there crying my eyes out, and Tyler come up to me, and he put his hand on my back, started rubbing and patting on my back, and he said, "What's going on, brother?" And I wouldn't talk, and he said, "Brother," he said, "look at me." And so I looked at him, and I was crying. He said, "What's going on?" I said, "I just want to fucking die, Tyler." He said, "Why? What's going on?" And he said, "Why? What the fuck's going on?" I said, "My parents, man." I said, "I'm just tired of being there. Like, I'm tired of the abuse. I'm tired of them hovering over my shoulder. I'm tired of them not letting me do shit. Like, I'm done." And he said, "Brother," he said, "I understand how you feel. I really do. Like, I met your dad. The first time I met your dad, I don't like him because he's a homophobic piece of shit. And he's an asshole to you, and I don't like it. And I don't like that. So I understand. But I will tell you this, brother. If you ever need to talk or vent or anything, like if you need to talk, vent, or anything, then feel free to hit me up. And if you need a place to stay, you're always more than welcome to stay with me." And Tyler was giving me all this giving me a motivational speech and everything, and I hugged him, and I told him, I said, "I love you, Tyler," and he said, "I love you too, brother." And and even the last time I seen him, we hugged, and I told him I loved him, and I said, "I love you, Tyler," and he said, "I love you too, brother." We hugged, and you know, that, like, all these memories I think about, and I break down crying, knowing that he's not here no more. Like, my drinking partner's not here, my weed partner's not here. It sucks. And I know this may, and I wish he was still here. I do, but I know it would be selfish to wish him back here to have to suffer through what he suffered through before he died. And, but, it sucks. I really miss him. I love him and I miss him very much. And I always will. And, one more thing. I know I keep saying this, but one more thing. When Tyler got sent away to Highland Hospital, well, when he went to Highland Hospital for his drinking problem, and then when he went to juvenile jail for his drug problem, I took his place, done a lot of obnoxious shit and everything. I took his place in doing that while he was gone, because I was keeping his I was keeping his legacy and everything intact. And, you know, but also there's one more thing. One time in school, I had a coffee cup of Mountain Dew. Tyler came up to me and he asked me what was in the cup. He asked me if that was coffee. I said, no, it's Mountain Dew. So I let him, so he wanted a drink of it. I gave him the cup and he said, you jizzing? He said, did you jizz in that? And I was like, no, Tyler. I joked with him. I said, yeah, I jizzed in it. And he wasn't going to drink it. And I said, I'm just fucking, like, he knew I was fucking with him, but he ended up getting a drink of it. But, I may end up being with Tyler here soon because, I miss him. I love him. I miss him. Everything. And before I wrap this up, Tyler, this is for you, brother. Tyler, I love you. I miss you. You were my friend, man. I love you, and you were like family to me. You're my brother. You always will be my brother, and I love you with all of my heart. And I miss you more and more every day. And I will forever grieve you until my time is up in this world. And the day we reunite will be a great day. And I look forward to seeing you again, maybe soon or someday. Well, Tyler, I hope you're enjoying yourself wherever you're at. Drink one for me, smoke one for me, play some badass songs on the guitar for me, skate for me. I hope you're having a good time wherever you're at. Save me a spot for whenever I go. I love you, Tyler, and I miss you very much, and I always will. Forever and always. I love you, Ty. I love you, brother. And I always will, Ty boy. Thank you for all the great memories we had together. I'll never forget them. And that's a promise. I will keep your legacy alive as long as I'm still here. I love you, Tyler, forever and always, and I miss you very much.